Geeks Assemble! Welcome back. We are excited to be here live tonight for Geeks, the GWW Cape Screw episode number 124. As always, I'm your host, Darth Sparrow, and we're pretty excited because we have a pretty awesome guest tonight, and I know Casey's super excited, so we're not gonna waste too much time. We'll just say hi to the guys. Casey, how you doing tonight?
Very, very good. How you doing, Will?
I'm excellent. By the way, should we let everybody know that you are now in my wedding?
Oh yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, dude. Casey's in my wedding, guys.
Very, very small circle of friends who care.
I know.
But yep, I'll be walking in a wedding. It'll be my first,
It's awesome.
besides my own.
First for everything. I'm glad to have you, man. It's good to see you tonight. And tonight we have a new face to the show, the gentleman with the smashing beard, Mr. Anthony Frankel. What's up, man?
Nothing much. Just glad to be here tonight.
Yeah, we're glad to have you, man. So tell us what fine contributions have you made to the website, podcast, all the above?
Oh well, the podcast ball is just starting to get rolling, and right now my role's been just writing on the comics section. Just whatever I kind of grab here and there.
Yeah.
That's all I really do.
And
Pretty small so far.
And you're getting your master's for writing, right?
Yes, I am. Pursuing the PhD, but cross that road when we come to it.
Yeah, cool. Well, good luck with that, man. We wish you the best, and we're excited to have you on our little show tonight. But more importantly, let's get to our guest. And we're on episode 124 of the GW Capes Crew, and I can tell you sincerely from day one, there's one particular writer that Casey over here has been talking about since the first day.
Who, me?
Yeah, you. And since we are honored to have him on the show tonight, I'm going to let Casey go ahead and take over the interviewing and introducing our guest. So, Casey.
Oh my God, you're gonna make me stumble over this. This guy has donned comic books for the past decade. He's been everywhere. You may know him from Fear Agent and the Uncanny X-Force and Uncanny Avengers and Black Science and Deadly Class and Low and there's nothing. Yeah, I can't say enough of how much this guy has just been an influential part of my comic book reading. So, with no further ado, please welcome the fabulous, the magnificent, the extremely handsome Rick Remender.
Hey guys, you're doing great. You're doing great. This has been really perfect. Now, I've only got about a minute or two to talk, so let's see how quickly you can rifle those questions out.
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
We're excited to have you, Rick.
So, Rick, let's start from the very, very beginning, like we like to do with all of our guests. What's your origin story? Where did it all begin with you? Where did you grow up? What was the antithesis that brought you to become a comic creator?
I grew up in a cultural mecca known as Phoenix, Arizona. All the important things that are happening around the world center in Phoenix. That's where all culture radiates out of Phoenix, Arizona.
That's like the center of the onion, right?
It is.
Ooh.
Well done.
Ooh.
So I grew up in Phoenix, and when I was about 11, I was skateboarding with some friends at a 7-Eleven, and it was 120 degrees, and we went inside to get Slurpees, as young men are wont to do on such hot days. And I saw Secret Wars #4, and it's the one with the Hulk holding up the mountain, and the mountain is going to crush Spider-Man. And it's like under 4 trillion tons of rock, the Hulk holds the mountain and he's mad. And I was like, oh, that's fucking stupid. I'm not going to, whatever, comic books. And I remember walking by it again after we played some whatever the video game was there. Sinistra, whatever. Anyway, I'm old. So, the comic book made its way into my hands, and I purchased it. And I remember getting home and sort of begrudgingly reading it. And, Iron Man, fucking Hulk, what is this kid shit? I was grabbed by it. I immediately sort of fell in love with it. So from there I started collecting Marvel comics, and drawing them and writing my own comics as a kid and doing all the shit that we do as nerds who love the art. And I went to and I guess by the time 91 rolled around the time that Jim Lee and Claremont were on X-Men, the X-Men was my passion. I was a fanatic for the X-Men. I started to I started to manage a comic book store. I went to the Joe Kubert School for a little while in New Jersey, and didn't stay because of New Jersey. Went back to the comic book store, managed it for a bit, and around that time I started finding that there were many comic books outside of superheroes, and I fell in love with Dan Clowes and Evan Dorkin and Peter Bagg and all of the Fantagraphics and Drawn and Quarterly stuff, and then the Vertigo books really grabbed me, and so for most of the 90s that was the stuff I was really into. And I started working for Don Bluth as an animator around 1995, and but my nights were spent still making comics. I just couldn't get the bug out of my system, so I just couldn't stop making comic books. And then I self-published my first comic in '97, and then did a follow-up in '98. We were doing a series called Captain Dingleberry. It was inspired by the songs of Frank Zappa. Captain Dingleberry fought people like Sack Warrior of Chode, who had testicular cancer, and the radiation turned his testicles into iron balls that he swung around like Thor. And then there was Sir Richard Pumpelloaf, who had a penchant for French loaf. So he was sort of a flamboyant villain whom he created a machine that would turn his victims into gingerbread man, that he could molest them the way that God intended. And Captain Dingleberry fought these rapscallions, and I just fell in love with making comics. So from then I would hold day jobs at Warner Brothers and Fox and Electronic Arts, and then at night I would go do my comics. And it was from Captain Dingleberry to Blackheart Billy to Doll and Creature. I penciled the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for a while, inked the Avengers, and then in 2004, Eric Stevenson said that they would publish whatever comics I wanted to do, and so I went crazy, and I have been going pretty crazy ever since.
The craziest, some would say. What do you remember the first comic you read, and after reading it, you were like, you know what, I think I can do this?
Well, the first one I read was Secret Wars #4, but the first one that I read and thought I could do this, I still don't think I've read that comic. Yeah, I don't know. I think that there was, I used to sit around and, copy panels out of the X-Men and the Amazing Spider-Man as a kid. When I actually thought I could do it, I guess I was probably 19 or 20, and I had been, kind of drawing and doing my own comic books, and it occurred to me that maybe with some training and some time, I could actually learn to write and draw comic books. Had I known at the time how much time it would take to get any good at it, maybe I would have gone into another career. But yeah, I don't remember what it was that was specific. As a comic book, fiend, I had a closet full of long boxes, and I don't know if it was any one specific comic book more than it was just a love of sequential storytelling.
Yeah. Rick, you talked about having a love for X-Men. It's since the early days. Do you have a favorite X-Men character?
Favorite. I guess it would go. You'd have to really go by era. I think that I'd have to go by team. I'd say that the John Byrne, Chris Claremont era is probably my sweet spot in terms of cast. But up and through even the stuff that was happening in the 80s with Archangel and that stuff, I really loved all that stuff too. I was I was a fanatic from probably 1984 till about 1991, 92, and that was when that was I think once Chris Claremont left, I wasn't far behind him. That was sort of the end of it for me.
Yeah. Gotcha. I've I've been a huge animation fan, obviously, all my life pretty much, and you talked a little bit about being an animator, and you worked on some really popular animated films, like including The Iron Giant. Can you tell us a little bit about your time as an animator for the Don Bluth Company?
I had gone to the Joe Kubert School to learn how to do comic book art, and I was 20, 21, and I had a girlfriend back home, and so New Jersey didn't really fit my life plans, basically. And so I moved back to Phoenix and I got enrolled back in school and started taking more life drawing and working on the art and the writing when Don Bluth and 20th Century Fox opened up an animation studio in Phoenix. And they said they were going to hire something like 50 local people and train them.
Yeah.
And they got, I read in the newspaper they'd already had like 10,000 applicants, and I thought, well, this is a waste of time.
Yeah.
But my parents, being supportive parents, convinced me to do it. And so I sent in my portfolio, and they brought me in and gave me an animation test, and then they hired me. So I was really fortunate to begin work for 20th Century Fox and Bluth when I was about 21. And I worked there till I was about 25, and then I quit and moved to San Francisco. First I went to LA for a while, worked on The Iron Giant.
Yeah.
Then I went to San Francisco and got a job at Wild Brain, where I was, first I was animating commercials, and then I pitched my own cartoon series that I directed that and ran that show for a while, and
it sounds like you need to bring Captain Dingleberry back, because I think that would be a stellar cartoon on Cartoon Network right now.
I've thought about it. I really have. I mean, it's just such utter ridiculousness, and it was my first taste of comic books, and that you can do anything. There is no committee telling you yes or no. Yeah, it's definitely not something that I'm going to do anytime soon. I've got a couple of ideas for absurdist humor books.
Yeah.
Everything. I'm getting a little tired of the digging into my emotional state or what it would be like to be. I love doing it, but I need to get back to writing humor and doing some of that more the fun stuff. Get out there and. But I definitely consider every so often that maybe I should dust off Captain Dingleberry and take him out for another spin.
That's like an Adult Swim show waiting to happen right there. Seriously.
Speaking of,
Go ahead, brother.
I would say, speaking of digging into the emotional stuff, I mean, one characteristic about your book is they are heartbreaking, almost 100% of the time. It's got to be emotional for you to write that and come up with these ideas. Where do they come from? Where does the inspiration to kind of go out and set? I'm not saying you set out to break hearts, but I mean, it happens undoubtedly every time, from Uncounted X-Force to Fear Agent to Deadly Class to Black Science. It's hard to read a book and read a Remender book and not have your heart broken at least once.
Well, that's nice of you. I mean, I think that one of the things that you want to do with your writing is to have something to say, and I think that also you want to convey human emotion. I mean, writing is an opportunity to connect with the people that are kind enough to read what you're writing, and so I don't try to make them all heartbreaking, but I think in every story, just like in every life, there should be some genuinely heartbreaking moments, and there should be some human identification, some pathos, and I think that ultimately, as I'm building each one of these stories, trying to find the moments of laughter to balance against the moments of heartbreak is the same as trying to look at my own life and maybe how it's been running lately. And Fear Agent starts off in a pretty happy place-ish. It's an adventure book, and Heath is going through some rough stuff, but as my own life went through some rocky years, Heath's life got rockier and rockier. And I think that it's interesting because it allows you to I do a better job of conveying an idea when I've freshly experienced it. It's why I'm fortunate in Deadly Class that I've got all the journals that I wrote from when I was a young man, so that I can read what it was like to be, 19 and have your heart broken, as opposed to being, an adult man with a family trying to remember what that was.
Yeah.
So for the emotional stuff, I think that's the greatest challenge. And so the fact that it actually, resonates or has an effect and that it works, that's probably like, the highest compliment you could pay, because I think that those are definitely not easy things to write. And when they're successful and people actually have a response to them and identify with them, that's sort of the highest aspiration and thing I hope for.
Yeah. I just got a chance to read Black Science last night. I read about the first 12 issues, Rick, and I had to tell you, man, I couldn't stop reading it. Like, I don't normally read comics that many in one sitting, but I just could not put it down.
I was gonna say you went like Netflix binging on it.
Yeah, I did. It was this is not to say that the artwork wasn't amazing, but your writing in that story is so incredible that I could almost just read the words and it would still be just as amazing, just as powerful as it is with the story, with the pictures, with the artwork. Let's talk about where that story originated from, because I mean, to me, it's very much like it's like Sliders mixed in with a little bit of Quantum Leap. And
how dare you take my description?
Robinson in there. I mean, it's just an incredible story. That, like you said, deals with a lot of those real life issues. On one hand, you've got, of course, like interdimensional travel, but you've got a dad who doesn't have the best relationship with his kids, and adultery, not the best relationship with his ex. I mean, it's just a really human-centered story in the midst of this very fantastical situation.
I think that what's interesting is that you're not wrong about those reference points, but none of them were in my mind when I was developing it. It wasn't until really after I developed it that I recognized, oh, there is a bit of Lost in Space and Quantum Leap in this.
Yeah.
I think that originally, as it was coming to fruition in my mind, it was about how do I have the most fun possible, and what kind of a stage allows me to constantly shift and then come up with new things on the fly, and to just be creative. Yeah. And I figured, oh, well, interdimensional travel.
Yeah.
And then developing the cast out of that, the cast sort of became not exactly Lost in Space, but it's a family and a crew, and there's a lot of interpersonal dynamics and drama going on between them. And so that it had a Lost in Space thing there, and then they had a device that would punch through dimensions, and it was broken. I don't know. I never saw Sliders, but I know that they had something like that in Sliders. It was a dimension hopping thing.
Rick, do yourself a favor. After this podcast, hop on Netflix, sit down with a nice beer, and enjoy yourself some Jerry O'Connell and some Sliders.
All right, I will. I love Jerry O'Connell. I mean, we're the same age, and so Stand By Me was a big deal when I was a kid. That movie left a huge impact on me. But so yeah, I mean, it just sort of, as those things developed, there were a lot of touchstones that I recognized that, this is a soup of a lot of different, very, very disparate, random science fiction things that have happened over the last 40, 50 years. And then I considered even changing it once I recognized that, and ultimately came to like, no, this is like Fear Agent. It's a pulp science fiction story, and I think it's okay that it has some of those tropes.
Right.
Fear Agent had all, robots with floating brains and things that we have seen before, and that fun Saturday morning pulp.
Right.
So ultimately, as I was developing Black Science, came to that point where I was like, that is what it is, and it's a fun stage, and really what's going to make it different is going to come down to the characters I develop and the voice of the characters, and how weird I let the story get in terms of where they go, and the beautiful art by Matteo Scalera.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's a book I look forward to every single week.
Thank you.
I just can't. It's one of those things I just read immediately upon picking it up. Sometimes it's a really bad echo.
Well, we're at the point now where it's such a big story that it really did take 16 issues to set it up, And the next 16 issues are all payout, and that's the fun part. Is you do the hard work and you build the characters and you set the stage, and then the real fun comes when you get to crash all the trains into each other. And it's like the night before when you were a kid, the night before when you set up all your toys, and then the next day you get to spend all day knocking them down and playing with them. Now we're at the knocking them down stage of things.
Let me blow your mind for a minute, Rick. But there's an episode of Sliders where they cure a disease that is plaguing the town or whatever place they in. Pretty much in the same way that happens in Black Science. It's just like by happenstance they just happen to be able to come up with a cure for this disease and save this whole society. When I read that issue, I was like, "Holy shit, it's happening!"
Well, again, when it comes down to like what they can do in each world and how they can actually have an effect and not just be reactionary to danger, there's probably a finite amount of things that the human mind can concoct in order to make them still doing something heroic. And that was obviously we hit the same nerve.
Yeah, it was very meta.
Yeah. What I found really cool about about Black Science is how obviously when talking about other dimensions, it'd be easy to just make every story about, oh well, here's me in a different version, but the way you space that out to where when those things happen they're kind of like important to the story, I thought that was really cool. It's not just hey, we jumped here and there's me again, but I'm a giant ant with my same face or something. It's
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I recognize that would probably get pretty boring, and that I put a lot of time in. Everything we've seen ties into a bigger narrative, and we've seen some threads throughout the entire story. And in issue 20, some of that comes home to roost, and we start to get an idea of the overarching story that's being told. But ultimately, I wanted to tell a bigger story than just jumping and surviving and dealing with the quantum leap of it all in a new world every week. And so that's the story that's been hinted at for the 19 issues we've done. And really, we'll start getting into that in about 5 or 6 issues, where we'll see that there's a bigger thing happening, and there's a larger story.
Gotcha. Yeah, thanks, Rick.
Let's go back to Deadly Class for a second. When that story first came out, I thought it was going to be something completely different than what it turned out to be. I mean, it presents itself as kind of like, oh, this kid's going to go to an assassin school and he's going to learn how to be an assassin. And I mean, to be honest, we've really got none of the assassinness or that training. And it's become this kind of weird, like teen, like angst story. Was that always the intention, or how is that story evolved from its incarnation?
It started off as 2 books. It started off as one book I was building was called Reagan Youth, and it was about growing up in the 80s and the punk rock scene and the skate culture and all the misadventures that me and my friends had. And at the same time, I was developing Deadly Class, which was a high school for assassins. And at some point, I started thinking that I should put them together, because there was more to be said than the high school for assassins is fine, but what was it really saying? And then when I realized that if I took real-life stories and fictionalized accounts and fun teen stories and then put them in the high school for assassins, where a betrayal is no longer just a heartbreak, but it's potentially life and death. And the dagger in your back is more than a metaphor. It's potentially real. And I started seeing and I felt like there was more meat on the bone there that way, where it could be exciting and it could be this noirish sort of crime story told in this high school for assassins, but it could also be the slice of life stuff and some of the things that happened to me and my friends and things that I felt like I could do an honest job of examining. And so when I put them together, that was sort of the nexus, and from there I started going through my old journals and taking out things that me and my friends had done and what had happened to me, and then mixing that in with conversations I'd have with Wes Craig and Sebastian, our editor, about fictionalized plot stuff. And I found that like merging those two was really fun, because you could take one thing that happened to me in Vegas, and then you could add danger levels to it that weren't real, and it allowed me to write something that I knew, and hopefully capture an authentic teenage voice and experience, while also doing big action.
Yeah, I tell you that Vegas hit a little close to home in some parts. But it was a pretty crazy night in Vegas. So with Deadly Class, there is I can't remember what issue it is, but Marcus shits his pants at one point. And it is by far the greatest onomatopoeia I have ever seen in a comic book. Do you recall like the gestation of this and how you guys came up with this scene? Because I mean, it literally takes up an entire like splash page of panel.
Rick, did you shit your pants in school?
No, that story is about 98% true. From the waking up in a park to running to the comic book store to the kid standing next to me, that was a very true story. Yes.
Good stuff.
I'm sorry, I'm particularly interested in the onomatopoeia because I just found it as a total masterwork of art and language in a hilarious setting. How do you guys, you and the artist, oh my gosh, I'm spacing now. Come up, Wes, thank you. How do you guys come up with something like that? Is that a collaborative effort, or does Wes bring it? You give him the noise, and Wes kind of creates the look.
Most sound effects I come up with, and obviously all the dialogue I come up with. A lot of the time, what I'll do with Wes is I will create a script that has the basic art beats and sound effects, because he likes to draw his own sound effects in there. Some of the sound effects are all added by Russ afterwards. And then Wes will usually add a lot of panels. So even if I write a 7 or an 8 panel page, Wes will make it a 10 and 11 panel page. And what that does is it gives a lot more motion and a lot more you basically, when you're looking at a big static image, there's nothing happening there except for that one big static image. And Wes's storytelling is so excellent because he strives to keep the eye moving across the page to give it the sense of motion, so that it almost does begin to animate. It almost does begin to have a life to it. But yeah, all the dialogue and sound effects are usually in the script.
Yeah, sorry. That was such a thing that stuck out in my mind when I read that comic. I was like, oh my, this is genius. It's disgusting. You're genius. So Anthony, you're a big fan of Lowe. Do you wanna take the discussion to Lowe and ask Rick some questions on that? Get you involved here.
Oh, sure. One thing I'm thinking a lot about is kind of where do you draw your inspiration from, whether it be high school experiences or journals as a child, et cetera, et cetera. So I was curious with Lowe because it's so far flung and it's so unique. And where does that come from? Maybe research, or is there something else maybe?
The very origin of it was I like to try and remember things that had a sort of a profound impact on me throughout life. And one of the things that I remember to this day very clearly was when I was 7 or 8 years old, and I'd learned that the sun will eventually expand, and that everything in our little solar system will be consumed. Was the idea of like nihilism? Was the idea that the sun will expand and that it'll eat the Mona Lisa, it'll eat New York, it'll eat the dinosaurs. Everything that humans have ever done will eventually be erased by a cosmic eraser. Mm-hmm. And So as I was developing this series, that notion struck me as I recalled that truth, and I started thinking, well, where would humans go while this happened? And this is, many hundreds of millions of years from now, but I sped it up and cheated the science a little bit. I started thinking, well, what if one cool sort of stopgap was to make these giant blast shield radiation-proof cities and go all the way to the bottom of the Mariana Trench and all over the world to the deepest parts of the ocean, where that would buy some cover. It would buy some darkness. It would buy some protection from the intense heat and radiation. And then it struck me that that was a really interesting place to tell a story, and that I've always wanted to do a different kind of science fiction that wasn't just in space. And I loved the idea of this aquatic setting. And then Greg Tocchini and I started working on it in 2010, around the time we finished Last Days of American Crime. And it wasn't until 2012 that I was in therapy and I was dealing with some anxiety and depression issues that I realized that the book also had a nice metaphor for trying to rise up from the bottom to make it to the top to see what's up there. And so when you hit those kind of moments, that seemed like that solidified the book in my mind. And I made the main character Stell because my mother is this sort of eternal optimist in the face of all things. And so I wanted to write, and there's not a lot of, lead characters that are moms. That doesn't end up happening a lot, especially in an action book. And then I liked to explore her family, and then from there it just became kind of world building and figuring out where things were at and what else was down there. And ultimately, what was on the surface, as things have been cooking and mutating for tens of thousands of years while humans have been on the bottom of the ocean.
Man, I gotta say, that is such a tragic beginning to such a great story, just consumption of everything we know.
Thank you. I'm glad you liked the book. It's the hardest to write because I find optimism so hard to logic through sometimes myself. And so as I'm writing that book and writing Stell, when finding a logical way to maintain a positive attitude and to carry on, some days when I'm down in it and not really feeling that way, it's a good exercise because it forces me to sort of intellectualize the process of optimism and positivity. And that's something that we all need more of. And so writing Stell is a lot of fun for that reason, and balancing bouncing her off of her kids and the various different personality attributes that they've acquired from their lives.
Yeah, I mean, hope really does seem to be, as you mentioned a few times, one of the kind of the central themes, central feelings of the whole series. And so, and that was actually a great segue to the next question, which is, have you ever found yourself, because this is obviously a very dire situation for not only these people, but just the whole population, no matter what city or anything, it's obviously has these very dire consequences. Do you ever feel that you may put someone into, I guess, too hopeless of a spot that you're like, oh gosh, how do I get them out of this giant fighting arena, battling giant animals and whatnot?
Well, I do full outlines, and so before I put them in an arena, I know what I get out of the arena, and I know. I never. So by the time I'd written issue 1, I'd outlined the first 7 issues, so I knew where the story was going, and everything is set up with a reason. I don't just make it up as I go, and so the arena was an opportunity for Merrick to finally get his hands on that shell that Joel had given the girls, and to see that it shone brightly when it was around his neck. Like once he grabbed it, it was an opportunity to show that Merrick had finished his character arc and he had healed and he had grown as a person. And then used that blinding light to blind the deep sea monster that was coming to eat him. And so you get more than just he punched it really hard or he cut its belly open and climbed inside. You want to do the fun action, you want to do those things, but you really want to have the end result be a solution that is character based and not just like so often in mainstream superhero comic books, the solution is punched hard. Somebody came in to help at the last minute. There's all these very obvious solutions, and so in terms of the arena, it set up Zem and Murtali, two characters that then would go forward with Stel, and had experience and contextual connections to Merrick, but it would also give Merrick that big hero moment with the shell.
Because you've done work in both the superhero genre and I guess non-superhero genre, do you think getting away from that has allowed you to explore these things more thoroughly?
Getting away from superheroes?
Or just like, that sort of a punch your way to a solution?
I tried not to do that even when I wrote superheroes.
Yeah.
That was always a thing for me structurally, and I put a lot of time into the foundation to make sure that, there would be other solutions than that, and that you would find an emotional character reason for solutions, or a character would use an attribute or use their brain to get out of something. And I guess I had been doing creator-owned books for about 10 years before I started work at Marvel. So exactly 10 years. I started working full-time at Marvel in 2008, and so I had been doing my own books in multiple genres for about 10 years. And I tried to bring, instead of let the superhero genre infect what I do, I tried to infect it with what I was doing. And so, if you read Fear Agent and X-Force or Venom and Punisher, I think Venom, Punisher, and X-Force read very much like Fear Agent. Okay. It's taken from that same place and that same sensibility. And then, I tried to do different things and to, experiment with the characters and to make them fun and creative and big and vibrant, and still hopefully have, substantial character arcs and all that.
So Rick, I think we're right out of time. So I wanted to just kind of touch base on what's on the horizon for Remender. What can we look forward to?
Well, we've got the new arc of Low comes out in about 2 weeks, and you can go pick up the first 2 trades for you can get them both for like $25. And the ongoing adventures of Grant McKay and Black Science, as we are heading towards the conclusion of the Godworld arc. We are hitting the big climax in Deadly Class right now of everything we've been doing so far. Issues 20 and 21 of that are the big climax of basically the whole series to date, and then we get a bit of a new direction on it. And then we've got Tokyo Ghost with me and Sean Murphy and
Holmes. Talk about Tokyo Ghost. Next time.
Next time. Well, yeah, and so Tokyo Ghost, the first arc, is wrapping up this week. So tomorrow, Tokyo Ghost 5 comes out, where every character gets everything they ever wanted, and it's all really happy, and everything is they have cake, and they sit around and smile and kiss, and everything works out perfectly for everyone.
Just a big bow on top.
So basically, everyone dies. Thanks a lot, Rick.
Everyone does die. It's just a matter of when.
So Rick, Ivan, once again, we just want to thank you so much for coming on. We're all huge fans here at Worldwide. I am personally a massive fan. I know Anthony's a massive fan. It's been this esteemed honor to have you on. We would love to have you back here. That you will come back on the show.
For sure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Where can we find you? Where can we find all your books and stuff?
RickRemender.com. I try and update every so often with my Jive, and I'm on Twitter at Remender, where I also post a Jive, and yeah, that's about my only internet at this point. Or I guess I have Instagram. I don't use it that much though.
It's for the kids.
It's the internet's for the kids. Look, yeah, in general. Yeah, so that's
At Remender, go pick up Low, go pick up Black Science, go pick up Deadly Class, go pick up Fear Agent, go pick up everything with his name on it, everybody. Thank you so much, Rick. We cannot wait to have you back. It's been, again, a huge honor, and I love you.
Thanks for having me. I love you too.
Rick, thank you, man.
It's been great.
Thanks, guys. This was great. Thank you.
All right, take care.
Okay.
All right, let's talk about that Suicide Squad trailer, huh?
Suicide Squad. I've been a little jaded by the recent entries into the DC cinematic universe, but I gotta tell you, man, I'm actually kind of excited about this after seeing that second trailer, man. It kind of took me by surprise.
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, for those of you who haven't seen it yet, go stop watching this now and go watch it. But yeah, the music choice was perfect. The tone was perfect. They definitely kind of took a step back from the dark tone of Batman vs Superman and kind of lightened it up a little bit. The character designs look amazing. It's honestly, after that trailer, I'm more excited for Suicide Squad than Batman vs Superman at this point, I think.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, I agree. I felt like Superman and Batman was just going to fall into something like this. Again, just darkness and this kind of like grungy attitude that we've been seeing so much. So Suicide Squad, I mean, it did definitely seem like a lighter note. And I'll admit, too, I was feeling a little jaded as well.
Yeah.
But no, it's definitely like, made me actually feel excited for the movie. It made me want to see these characters develop.
Yeah. So you guys know I read Harley Quinn's like one of the few books from DC that I read like religiously, and man, I'm like kind of in love with Margot Robbie right now. I mean, she's like exactly what I pictured as like real life Harley Quinn.
And they gave her all the best lines in the trailer too. Like she had definitely all the memorable spots.
And I like that she didn't just do like a cheap like imitation of like the Tara Strong Harley Quinn voice. She kind of has her own voice that's still very much Harley Quinn. Yeah. So that was kind of cool. It's kind of cool to see that they went that way.
Yeah, it's very much like L.A. Valley Girl meets like psychotic murderer.
Yes, which is what Harley Quinn is now, right?
Yeah, right. It's fitting.
It's very fitting. But yeah, man, it's we're coming up on another big batch of good comic book movies this year. It's gonna be ridiculous.
Yeah, this year's really loaded.
What comic book film are you guys most excited for? You can guess mine, so we won't even say mine.
I mean, upcoming. I think now it's got to be Suicide Squad at this point. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm excited for Batman vs Superman. I'm excited for Civil War. Like I think Civil War is gonna be fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's not like I've seen it before. You know what I mean? Like I've seen those characters. Like Suicide Squad looks like something I've never seen before. Yeah. It looks like a total something different, even for DC and Warner Brothers. Like it seems like a step out of the box for them because, I mean, even if you look at like the Batman Superman movies that have come already, like they've all had this very like dark tone. And Suicide Squad seems to be still have the dark tone, but injecting a little bit of humor into it. Injecting a little bit of color into it, and a little bit of craziness because I mean, we have Killer Croc who is like a mutated alligator man. Right. We have Katana who has like the possessed like demon sword. Yeah. We have Captain Boomerang who throws fucking boomerangs. I mean, like they're really like going for it. It looks like in that movie, and I'm really really excited for it. Like that looks like straight up comic book, and I think they're really taking a cue from like shows like The Flash and Arrow, where they're like, we can copy comic books. We can just bring a comic book to the screen, and people will love it. So why not just go full bore and give them their costumes and their powers and not beat around the bush, and I love that they're doing that.
Right. Yeah. What I was gonna ask you something I totally lost. Oh, you know what? Like that trailer was so well done that like it almost made me forget that I'm still like not really a huge fan of the Jared Leto Joker look, but I mean I think it's gonna work.
Oh yeah, I feel like when I first saw that photo, I thought it was gonna be so Joker centric that I was like, I don't know how much I'm gonna like it. But seeing that like everyone seems to be getting like equal time, or at least that it's pretty divvied up, definitely plays to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird, like because that trailer reveals no plot. Like we still have no idea what's happening in the movie. Unlike its Batman vs Superman counterpart, where like I feel like we know every beat of that movie.
Right.
Because it appears like although Joker is the bad guy, it appears like there's a more supernatural villain like afoot because you see that scene with the train
Mm-hmm.
like being blown apart in a weird way, and then that black goo that's like everywhere. So I'm assuming Enchantress, that's her name, right? The witchy one.
Yeah.
I'm assuming she has a villainous role to play in this as well, and maybe Joker like manipulates her into fucking with the Suicide Squad or something. I don't know, but yeah, I agree. I think the Joker is definitely looks to be a hype high, and looks like, it could be wrong, but it looks like they removed the tattoo from his forehead. Maybe that'll make people happy about that.
Yeah, tell you, man, it's exciting. But let's talk a little bit about all the interesting dealings going on with the Deadpool movie. So, what do you guys think about this lame petition that they've started to get a PG-13?
Oh, get out of here.
Right?
Oh, man. If
I
they
mean-
make it... Or you can go ahead.
I would say I understand why, because technically they would make more money for a PG-13, and there's a lot of people that may not go see this movie get to see it movie because it's R-rated.
Yeah.
But that being said, the MPAA, right, Will?
Yes,
That's what it's called?
yes, I believe so.
They will not rate two versions of the same movie.
Right.
Oh.
So that can't happen. So you can petition all you want. It's not going to happen.
Sorry.
So it's kind of a blind or a fool's bet at this point. But I understand. Like I get it. I totally get it. But we need a rated R comic book movie, and I think Deadpool is the perfect character to usher that in because he does teeter that line. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited for that movie too.
I guess last night Fox held a special advance fan event in New York and LA where they showed I guess an unfinished version of the film. And,
Oh, really?
And the reactions from the screening have been super positive. It goes on to say that, as it appears, Fox got everything right about the Merc with the Mouth, and not only are fans saying this is the best comic book movie from Fox, but it's also the best movie that stars a Marvel character. Period. So.
Ooh.
I don't know. Like those fan screenings though are so biased. Like
Yeah, it's true.
I really feel like you could show them like a guy like to take a scene from Idiocracy. You could show them a guy farting like on screen for like 2 hours in a Deadpool match,
5
and be like,
stars.
oh, greatest thing ever, like greatest thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, until it hits critics and that kind of thing, I think we'll reserve the immediate like praise. But that being said, like I really hope it does because like I said, I think if comic book movies are going to succeed or continue on, like we have to break the mold of the PG-13,
Right.
like family friendly, like hit these beats film that Marvel does kind of put out. So I think that if anybody can do that, like I said, it's Deadpool. And I would argue to say, because he's already doing it in the comic books, but I'd argue to say that after this movie comes out, Deadpool, you will not get enough Deadpool. It will be everywhere.
It'll be as bad as Star Wars, huh?
Yeah, like it's gonna be Deadpool and Star Wars
Yeah.
for the next 5 years, and they're already talking about a sequel. Like it's already like in talks. So
Jeez.
Right. It's crazy. Hey, buddy, you mentioned we were gonna talk about some Star Wars scenes. What scenes were we gonna talk about specifically?
we were. Oh, I don't know. I just throw stuff out. Sorry, I expected the Remender interview to go longer. I didn't realize he had a heart out.
Yeah.
But that's cool. I'm gonna get him back on.
Yes.
What a great guy. That was a great talk. Sorry about the echo, everybody. There was a slight echo when he was interviewing. I think it was on his end.
Yeah.
I don't hear it now. Hopefully, I can fix that. But hopefully, it sounds okay.
We'll fix it.
Did you guys sound? Did it sound okay? Were you able to hear questions
Yeah. I
on
think
your
so.
end?
Oh, yeah, I made it all out.
Yeah.
Okay. It's good. I don't know if I have to edit that out later. Whatever. Fuck it. I'm not gonna edit shit. What were you talking about? Oh, scenes. So apparently there was a scene where Maz Kanata
Oh yeah. About her using the Force, right?
uses the Force and takes down a bunch of stormtroopers.
Right. Brings the ceiling
there
down.
was
very-
another
very
scene-
Yoda-esque from Attack of the Clones.
I want to say there was another scene involving maybe Kylo Ren, but I forgot now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just wrote those because that was happening. What was happening? But yeah, I mean, that's a bummer, dude. Because I really think like if one thing Star Wars I could have used more of was more Star Wars.
More Star
Like, it
Wars.
would have been okay if it was 2 hours and 45 minutes. I would have been okay, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I think everyone would have been okay. Like,
Mm.
the Lord of the Rings, like, are allowed to be 2 hours and 45 minutes, and those movies I could deal with being shorter, but I think Star Wars is a movie I would have been like, I would have been okay with those extras
Where's
in there.
Where's my extended edition of Episode 7? That's what I want.
Yeah, not
With
going
all
to
those-
happen. Yeah, they said that wasn't going to happen either.
Yeah, with all those scenes put back in. But I can tell you guys, I picked up the novel only because I keep hearing there's like so much there's a lot of little details that got taken out of the movie that obviously you can read in the novel that really kind of enhance the overall story. So I'm only about like 7 chapters in, and it's already cleared up a couple things I had from the beginning of the film, which is kind of cool.
Huh.
So once I get done reading.
So Jar Jar's Rey's father, right?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
She's actually
Nailed it.
half Gungan, half Metachlorine.
Oh my god, that'd be so funny. What if she was just like a metachlorian, like an actual, like there's only we only sense one metachlorian in her, like they do that little thing on her, and then like we find out like her parents were like the original metachlorians.
Like she is a Metachlorian?
Yeah, she just is. She is one.
Like she's kind of like Neo, you know, in the Matrix. She's just like the code all going crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my god, I think we just fucking spoiled Star Wars.
We screwed it all up.
Spoiler alert.
Sorry, womp womp womp. Yeah, but anyways. What guys? What did Casey? What did you read anything? I mean, I'll be honest with
fucking did it.
I read 11 issues of Black Science. That's what I read this week.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I was preparing for the interview this week, and I didn't think, like I said, I didn't think we were gonna get to our Week in Geek. I was gonna try to stretch out the interview for as long as possible. But yeah, I didn't really read anything, so I will defer to Anthony.
Jeez, I'm trying to
Did
think I'm trying to think what I read too. Oh my gosh, I don't think I read anything. I've just been playing this huge stack of Xbox games. I don't think I've done anything on my end.
Hey, Xbox is good, dude.
Yeah, I know. It's not a terrible alternative.
I did read Poison Ivy, but I can't talk about it until tomorrow.
Are we on an embargo into that?
It is embargoed. I mean, technically, I guess. Fuck it. They're not gonna fucking watch. They're not watching right now. It's good.
I was just gonna ask you. Can you at least tell me if it's good? Is it? Are we talking like?
Yeah. It's
on
good.
The same level as Harley Quinn?
No, it's a different book entirely. I mean, it's not a humorous book, but the art is fucking like the art alone is unbelievably gorgeous.
Right.
And if like if you didn't want to read it and you just wanted to see like a great depiction of Poison Ivy, it's probably one of the best. A review goes live for it tomorrow by Tyler. He enjoyed it a lot. It's good. Harley does make an appearance in it. Yes. Shocking, I know.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean it's good. It's only 6 issues, so I'm hoping it stays good. Mm-hmm. But basically, it's just kind of like not an origin story, but like a more like in-depth character study of her.
Okay.
And the struggles she kind of has to deal with being half tree entity and half human or whatever.
Right.
So it's cool, and like I said, the art is just wow, it's amazing. So just for that alone, I'd pick it up. Oh, you know what I did read that we didn't talk about, or I didn't talk about last week? A Legend of Wonder Woman.
Oh yeah.
Holy
shit!
How was that?
It is so good. It is so good, and it's basically the retelling of it's a complete retelling of the Wonder Woman origin, and then you also get like mini Wonder Woman, so like you're gonna watch her grow up from like a young age to the woman she becomes or whatever. It's a story we haven't seen before. Granted, we've gotten Wonder Woman origins before, but they're always really muddy, pun intended, and they're very hard to explain. But this one does it in a very cool way. It very much centers on. I say Hippolyta, but I don't think that's right. It's Hippolyta.
Yeah. Hippolyta.
Okay, I know I've ruined that. It focuses on Hippolyta and the reasoning of why she would make a Wonder Woman, but then it turns out like she doesn't even make the Wonder Woman. Like what? She doesn't make Wonder Woman. She doesn't make Princess Diana. Like, okay, so I'm just gonna fucking spoil it. So basically, she's given immortality, and she lives an entire like thousands of years, and all she wants to do is be mortal, and she cannot find a way to be mortal. And she's just cursed with this immortality. Right. So at some point, she tries to have a family and do all that stuff, but of course that doesn't work out well. They all grow old and die, and she just wants to have like a family and to be close and to have something to make her feel mortal. So she's like crying out to Zeus. He doesn't do anything for her, but as she's crying out, the island, the Themyscira, like makes a baby for her. Wow. So it's this really cool, it's this really cool like twist on like made of clay. So it's not like she is technically made of clay, but it's the clay of the island. So technically she's like born of Themyscira, which kind of like grounds her more into like, it makes her more Amazon, if that makes sense. Right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it grounds her more into that world, as opposed to just being like, oh, I've made her out of clay, and oh, you're alive now. And it's really kind of this touching idea too that like she's like this mortal anchor for her mother, and now that gives her mother a reason to protect her and to keep her safe when all she wants to do is be like a crazy Amazon woman, you know what I mean? Even as a young child, she knows she's different, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So she has to bear this rock of a princess, but not being mortal or not being immortal, and she Hippolytus telling her like, you don't worry, they'll make you immortal, and she's like, well, what if they don't make me immortal? Like, what am I gonna do then? Yeah. So like it becomes like this cool like telling of Wonder Woman that we've kind of never seen before, because I feel like every Wonder Woman story is like, okay, she's made into clay and then she's Wonder Woman. Like we never see like that in between in space. And speaking of that, like Max Landis is doing the same thing like an American Alien, where like we get a Superman and we never saw Superman in college. We never saw him like in high school and having to deal with the fact that like everyone, and I like how Max Landis does this too, like everyone in Smallville knows who Superman is, like, and that's totally true. Like I come from a small town of 500 people. Like if I was Superman, I would not be able to keep that fucking secret. You know, I would tell all my friends, like everyone would know. Yeah, like it's like I couldn't get a speeding ticket without the entire like neighborhood knowing. There was no way I could run a million miles an hour or fly without the fucking neighbor finding out. You know what I mean? So it really kind of grounds it, and it gives you like a good history of these characters. Like in the American Alien one, like he is a typical college kid. He gets American Alien #3. Like Clark basically gets mistaken for Bruce Wayne on a birthday party on his yacht, and madness ensues. He ends up hooking up with this girl, like, and then has to like fight a villain. And it's an amazing scene with like Deathstroke shows up to kill Bruce Wayne, and he's like, "Oh, you ended up on the wrong boat, buddy." He literally flicks him, and like Deathstroke like flies off like into the ocean. It's this really cool thing that you should never, like, no one ever would have thought to write a Superman story where he was in college. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Where he was surrounded by cocaine and drugs and women and like having to deal with all that, you know. But it would happen. Like it totally, like if you could fly around the entire world and go wherever you wanted to, and you were 20 years old, 19 years old, like what the fuck would you do? Like, you know what I mean? Like even the purest of heart of people like have these lapses of sin. Yeah, right. So I don't know. So I really kind of I'm digging both of those kind of stories, and like I said, the Wonder Woman one, I guarantee you, I'm calling it now on the podcast, but I said this in my review. Yeah. I guarantee you that is the origin story that you'll see in the Wonder Woman movie. Okay. She will not be made of clay. She will be a mortal anchor to her immortal mother that was given to her by Themyscira. Yeah. Which I think once again is a beautiful origin, and it's told so well and so clearly in Legend of Wonder Woman. Yeah. Cool, man. Good stuff. All right, that's enough. Yeah, I think that's good.
We're at 9 o'clock. Real quick before we close out, just in case y'all don't know, there was a whole lot of like geek-centric stuff on primetime TV this week. We got the return of Agent Carter. There was a Captain America, like 75-year special going on the
all right,
tonight.
Man.
I am not a fan. I'm going to get a ton of shit for this.
All right, go ahead.
But Agent Carter really needs to impress me this season. Like, they really, like, I think that show got a lot, like, I think it got a lot of, how do you say this? Like, I don't know. I think it got a lot of credit and a lot of fanfare for being like a very like female-powered super or like not superhero, but you know what I mean, like female
What you're
empowerment
saying
like
is you feel
show.
like that hype it overshadowed the fact that the show wasn't that good. Is that what you're trying to say?
I am, and I know that sounds terrible, but I like it sounds terrible. It really does, and it's not that it's a bad show. I just feel like they really need to step it up this season. Like I need a good villain. Like I need some Marvel-ness. Like I need a mask, or I need like they're having like Madame Mask is set to appear, and she's not going to be wearing a mask. Like that is a problem.
Yeah. Okay.
Her name is Madame Mask. It's in
Should have
her
a mask
name.
on.
There's
Yes.
one requirement. Like wear a mask.
Yeah.
So like it's things like that kind of worry me. Like and in the one shot like they tease Zodiac like where like I would love for Zodiac to come back and be like a villain. I just think they really need to step it up and really kind of bring her into the Marvel U, especially because she is dying in Captain America: Civil War. So that's not a spoiler, by the way. It's well known.
Yeah.
She's old. She's like 100 by this point.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it lives up to your. Hopefully they bring it up for you, bro.
I hope so. I mean, like we got Legends of Tomorrow too.
Yeah,
so.
I was just gonna say that starts this week too, right?
Oh,
Yeah, and the early rumor on that or buzz on that is it's good, but once again, like same thing with Supergirl. When you get all those special effects in there, it's really it can become messy and
They tend to rely on that too much sometimes.
you tend to rely on that too much, and you rely on that and you don't worry about the story, and I think that's what Supergirl's doing right now because the stories have been really bad with the special effects. And like the action has been really cool.
Yeah.
So I'm just hoping that Legends of Tomorrow doesn't fall into that same trap.
All right. Cool.
I also think Greg Berlanti is a little getting like stretching himself out a little thin. Like how many shows can you fucking be in charge of, guy?
Yeah. Come on, dude. All right, guys. You want to Casey? You want to close this out with a final thought?
My only final thought is I just want to thank. I know he's not listening, but thank you so much, Rick Remender, for coming on the show.
Yeah.
Like Will said, it's been a long time coming since day one. It's been my goal to get that guy on, so I'm so happy he's on. So happy that you guys got to listen and hear it. I'm so happy. Please share with everyone that you know.
Yes.
Because we get cool guests. In fact, Brian Wood is coming up very, very soon in a couple of weeks as well.
Yeah.
I know there's other people. But Elliot Rawls coming back. You guys remember him? He came on Donnie Katz. He talked about.
You're talking about Dr. Black.
Dr. Black's coming back.
Dr. Black himself the Black is back.
So I mean, yeah, just stay tuned. We got a lot of stuff coming up. Make sure you guys go to the site. We did a redesign over the weekend, or I didn't do it, but one of our Chris Hill did, and
the powers that be redesigned the site.
It looks amazing. It looks so good. Yeah. It's really kind of a step up for us. There's literally many things. I used to say there's something new every day. There are many things new every day at GWW now. So many to the fact where I can't even keep up with it anymore myself. So make sure you guys are just checking in every day. We're posting news. We're posting trailer breakdowns. We're posting reviews. Everything is going up there as much as we can because we want you guys to keep coming back. So please come back. Yes. Make sure you follow us at GWW Cape Screw. Make sure you follow me at The Comics Kid. Yes. I think that's enough for me.
Anthony, final thought for the week, sir?
No, but this was definitely the highlight of my week. Again, super big Remender fan. I'm still kind of coming down from it.
I know. I feel like it was not I gotta be honest, not the best interview probably from us, but we were all so just starstruck. So if the interview was bad, I apologize. But this was more of. It's not for you guys. Like it's for me and Anthony. This is for me and Anthony.
I felt like Stone. Just, do you like comics?
Yeah. Like,
You guys remember that skit with Chris Farley where you talk to celebrities and be like, hey, you remember that scene in like Jurassic Park where like the dinosaur like chased you and then you like jumped in the bathroom and it ate you? Yeah, that was cool. That's kind of what happened.
That's how I felt. Yeah, that's how I felt describing the onomatopoeia part. I'm like, yeah, you probably don't remember doing this, but this was like an influential moment in my life because it was the first time I realized like how important an onomatopoeia was.
Yes.
But yeah.
Cool. Well, awesome.
Or can be.
But Anthony, thank you, man, for being on. We hope we get to see you back on again with us, bro.
Hope to be on.
Awesome, man. And like Casey said, keep checking out the site. I just posted a review on the Superman the movie 6-inch figure from NECA Toys, which is like one of my like new favorite action figures that I have because it looks like Christopher Reeve. It's freaking awesome. So check that out. Also, for my other final thought, and you can't see this if you're listening, but FYE, the place that used to be the warehouse, had a cool exclusive version of the Vision pop vinyl from Age of Ultron, which I freaking like bought as soon as I saw it because the original one they came out was kind of lame and gray. This one's all metallic-y and cool. So if you have an FYE and you want a cooler Vision pop vinyl, go pick that up. It's really cool. It was like $12. Love it.
Will,
Love
I
it.
have to tell you, I canceled my smuggler's box.
Well, I'm
But
getting mine tomorrow, so I'll review it.
no, I'm getting that one, but I canceled it from now on because the DC one came out, so I had to make a tough
Oh,
call.
yeah.
Yes.
That
All
looks
right.
good.
All right. Well, you keep the DC one. I'll keep the Star Wars, and we'll keep
All
it
right.
coming.
We got it all covered.
We got it all covered. As always, guys, thank you for listening on this awesome Tuesday with Rick Remender. Thank you again for joining us tonight, Rick. We really appreciate it. As always, you can find me on Twitter at Darth Sparrow. Thanks for watching, listening, and for the whole team, we will catch you on the geek side.